Hello, live. Hello, everyone out there. We're here at the Iron Mill doing a Facebook Live about the TA Psychotherapy course at the Iron Mill College. My name's Bryony Nichols, and I'm the lead tutor for TA at the Iron Mill.
I'm Rosie Harris, and I'm a graduate from the TA course, and I'm also
And we're really here because there's two of us here because TA and psychotherapy is about having a dialogue. And so we wanted to mirror that in this video as well as in the courses that we run elsewhere.
So there's something about your opportunity to comment or to add what you'd like to, if you want to hear about something specifically, this is your opportunity to get in touch and to impact on that as well.
Yeah, great. So do get in touch as well whenever you like, as soon as you hear something that you want to know more about, or if you've got specific questions, you can type comments and questions into the comments box under our video. So briefly, we'll talk about TA. We'll talk about the foundation course particularly, and about our advanced course a little bit, and we'll endeavour to answer as many questions as you have. Do you want to add anything to that at the minute, or shall we just get on with talking about TA?
Yeah, I guess just to give you guys a sense a bit about, of course, some of the practicalities, and also just a bit of a feel. Bryony teaches it, so it's nice to get the face. And then I'm here just because I've been on it to give a feeling of what it's like. And then any other further questions, you can just contact me on or add to the discussion as we go.
Contact us as we're going along. We'd really like to hear from people. So we're talking about us having a dialogue, but we'd really like to have a dialogue with you guys as well. Anybody who's watching, there is no such thing as a stupid question. So do ask questions, because I can guarantee that if you're asking a question, there'll be other people out there who also want to know the answer to that. So do please go ahead. Okay, so just to say a little bit about, should we say something about TA? TA is a theory of personality, and which is really the theory of ego states, of communication. So that's the transactional bit of transactional analysis, and it's a theory of development. So how do we get to be how we are in the world, and how do we get shaped in the world, and our behaviours get shaped in the world? And I think TA is brilliant. I've been studying TA for many, many years. I think TA is a wonderful theory because the theory really, really works well together. It's a theory that people can pick up really quickly and can then follow through on. I've been studying it for many years now, and each time I look at a paper, I find something new to think about. So it's deceptively easy. You can pick it up in 2 days, but you can then continue studying it for many, many years. I think we've got a quick question here. How useful is the foundation first year on its own? Okay, thanks for your question, Matt. The first year, yes, we talk about doing the course in 2 chunks, which is the first year and the other 3 years, but the foundation year is a year on its own, and it acts as a standalone course by itself.
I think the foundation year is really good to give you a broad overview of TA theory. So if you're another practitioner and you just want to supplement what you're already doing, I think it's really helpful. And it also is a really, really good introduction. And we have one of the courses to give you a favour, but it really is a good substantial introduction to TA theory. So it really gives you an opportunity to test out if you really like it, if this is how you want to work. And we get a lot of practitioners who, they already have a practice, they come in and do the foundation year, and they use that year to decide, is this what I want to move on to, or do I just want to focus into my existing practice? So I think it can be really helpful.
Yeah, so TA is practiced in these 4 fields, which is psychotherapy, counselling, education, and organisations. So we get people from education and from organisations as well as clinicians into the first year. And quite a lot of them then take that work back into their fields, but don't pursue it into the advanced course.
And there is some flexibility as well. Some people take gaps even in the advanced year, so it isn't set in stone. I think we've got another question, which is what sort of work is required at assignments, etc.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. Thanks very much for your question. In the first year, there's 2 assignments. There's 2 2,000-word assignments. So, and they're based on the coursework, obviously. And at the end of the year, then people also do a presentation on a piece of theory that they've found helpful and interesting, and so what they've done with that. So we get some great creative presentations. I'm sure you can remember some of those as well. I guess I'd say probably 2 or 3 hours work a week, reading a week for the foundation course. That would be plenty, wouldn't it? What's your take on that?
It definitely builds up. So the foundation course has probably got the least amount of work that you need to do outside of the weekends that you're here. There is, and it's all very connected, so there isn't a feeling. My experience in the course was there wasn't a feeling of arbitrarily doing something to tick a box. So all the assignments are very thoughtful and fit into your practice and your professional growth very well. So I'm looking back now, having completed everything, and everything I did fit in very nicely to how I was developing at the time and was meaningful and related to my practice. So it's not, it is an academic course, but I think it's also very related to yourself and how you practice. So it doesn't feel arbitrary and academically different.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think also one of the other things to mention, and I know we've got another question up here, is just about the therapy requirements, that we do really recommend that people go into therapy in that first year as well. It's an absolute requirement at later years, but certainly even on the foundation year, we really recommend, for various reasons that I'm happy to talk through, that people go into therapy. Nadia, thanks for your question, Nadia. What are the entry requirements for the foundation course? So, ideally, because this course, the whole of the advanced course, the whole of the psychotherapy course is at a master's level. So ideally, people who enter even the foundation course will have a degree, because it then shows that you're able to work at that level. That is not an absolute, because we do have people who don't have a degree, but we need them to know that people are able to work at that level and are motivated and ready and able to work at that level. So to have a degree, we like people to have done a 101, and that, again, that's not an absolute requirement, but it is a very useful taster for our courses. And what else are the absolute requirements?
There's something about having some experience, potentially not clinically or all those counselling skills, but something like that, not to be totally new to that.
I think we have a lot of people who've done some work in voluntary work, listening skills type of work, or have done previous counselling skills type of courses. And we do also have people who are coming in just from having talked to people in their daily lives. So it's not a requirement. Okay, Aisha, thanks for your question, Aisha.
I did just mention
about
the entry requirements. I think it can seem quite intimidating when you look at the requirements of the course. I want here to know that done a degree of psychology or something. We have a huge mix in the course. We have ex-policemen and cabbies and nurses, and it's a really big mix, and everyone has a very different background, and that's really taken into account. So it isn't one size fits all. Everyone's coming from a different place and different experiences, and those are all really valued. So it's definitely worth getting in contact with Bryony or the IFL to discuss if you think you might be eligible or you've got some questions.
Yeah. I think, we try to be as open as we can be, while recognising that this is an academic course with certain requirements, so we need to find that balance.
So Aisha, are the placements required in the first year, or is it only in the advanced course?
Over to you. Yeah.
So you don't do a clinical placement in the first year, the foundation course. You're just coming into the IML and you're encouraged to get your own therapy. If we feel like, or if Bryony feels that you're at a level where it's appropriate for you to move on to the advanced course, that's when you start looking for clinical placement. And that just grows and grows in the advanced years. So it really builds you up gently, and you're very supported and eased into the process of finding placements, getting settled. And you actually start your private practice, you can start your private practice or training as well, and that's also a very well supported process. and it's definitely worth mentioning because it's also helpful.
Yeah, yes, that's a good point. That people do tend to start in private practice third, fourth year, something like that.
Orla, can we talk a little about accreditation?
Okay, let's not talk about accreditation. So our course is run under the auspices of the UK Association for TA, and they run the course on behalf of the UKCP, the UK Council for Psychotherapy. So through taking our course, it then makes you eligible for UKCP registration once you're finally qualified. That's the UK part of this. We're also part of an international TA community. So the UCATA actually makes us members of the European Association of Transactional Analysis, and AATA are the people who run our qualification actually. So you get an international qualification, which is a certified transactional analyst, having passed the requirements for that qualification. We call it an exam, and there's a written and oral part of that.
To demystify that slightly, it's so technical. It is quite a long accreditation route, and it's a bit more convoluted potentially than other paths. The benefit of that is, as I said before, about things building up. It's a bit longer, but it kind of grows and grows. So you get your 4 years and you get a qualification for that that's meaningful. And then you have normally a couple of years of getting really settled in your private practice, your work, and building up towards that final accreditation. So most people who have, well, people I graduated with, by the time they're in the 4th year, pretty much all of them were working in the field then. They'd done that transition from being whatever they were being before to doing psychotherapy to the amount that they wanted to. And then they take their time to do that final bit of accreditation and really solidify themselves as practitioners. I think sometimes when people are looking at courses, they think, you know, when am I going to be done? When can I, you know, is it going to be 2 years? I don't want to have to wait 4 years. Actually, I think there's a real value to doing things in a meaningful way and in a way that allows you to build up your skills and not be overwhelmed or not put yourself in a situation where you don't feel competent. And that slowly develops. So the people who end up, and the people that I know who've done their final accreditation, are rock solid practitioners. You know, they really can speak about what they're doing with confidence, and they feel very supported and able in their work. So I think the benefit of the accreditation route through the UKCP is it is very robust. It does mean that you have to cover certain things like mental health placement, which means that you're very well prepared for whatever you're going to come across in your work and in the world, rather than rushing through something, you know, getting that box ticked, but actually feeling like there was some things missing out. It is comprehensive, and I think you come out the other side feeling very capable. I think that's real benefit.
I think it's a very exacting process, and we sometimes complain slightly about the TA being a very exacting process, and I think that's its strength as well. But having got through the TA route, you will have met all the requirements for UKCP registration, and that's the gold standard psychotherapy registration within this country. So that's how that works. Okay, Aisha, do you need any specific qualifications before starting this course? No, is the simple answer. Ideally, a degree so that we know that people are working at that, are sort of ready to work at that level. But you certainly don't need a psychology degree. We have people with degrees in all sorts of areas. Mine was in, yours was in psychology, wasn't it? Mine was in biochemistry actually back in the day.
We have people with English and all kinds of other things.
And people with no formal qualifications sometimes, because they've just, I guess a lot of people come to this field late, don't they? They don't come straight from university or whatever. They come at a later time in their careers when they've had some life experiences and they want to change career.
I will say I don't think I'm the most representative example of the people on the theory course, just because I did come to it reasonably shortly after being in university because of my journey of coming across something and thinking this is great. But a lot of people come in either as qualified counsellors already or have a career, and then this is their second career. So it's very, very normal for people to be bringing a lot of different experience in. And having their own profession and then be, going through the journey of fitting TA into that or developing into TA practitioners using that. And I think that's a real journey as well. You don't have to come to it fresh and you don't have to have an existing qualification in counselling or something. You can really make it into what you need it to be. So I came to it quite fresh-faced, like, fill me up for a TA. But some people, they really do come with a really significant amount of experience, and they want to just see how all of that fits into the TA theory and training.
I think that's one of the great strengths of the course, that we have people with a huge amount of different experiences that they can bring to bear and apply to the theory. That's really how the course works. Is there's obviously a great body of theory that we want to talk about. Certainly on the foundation course, what we're doing, like we do on our 101, is we're using the theory to apply to ourselves. So although people bring in examples from their work or from their clinical work or other places, generally what we're doing is we're saying, let's talk about ego states, or let's talk about your ego states, or let's talk about how we're reacting to these, how we're interacting using this theory.
And I guess that's why getting into therapy in first is really useful, because you're learning about TA concepts and you're learning about how that applies to people in your group at college, but then you're going away and you're doing work with your therapist about your stuff. And I think that really helps cement, it isn't just arbitrary theory, like, oh, there's this concept, you're really taking it into yourself and making sense of yourself through that. And then that puts you in such a good position to then start doing that with clients when you get to that point. So there's no kind of hiding or getting away with things, I think, a little bit. Yeah. Which I think is really good.
Sounds a bit intimidating.
But I think it's about exploration. I think the people who end up doing this course are people who are really curious, and people who are really interested, and people who aren't just like, I just want to phone it in and get a qualification, but people are like, oh, I want to kind of understand this and figure it out, and I'm hungry. And I think, my experience with course and the people I train with is that it does really meet that. It is a meaty course, it feels fulfilling, it feels like you're making sense of stuff, and it does leave you, once you get to the client stuff, with a feeling of an ability to be competent at diagnosing stuff, thinking theoretically, all of those things that might feel a bit intimidating in the beginning. So I think it's really good.
Well, and I'm thinking even for people at the foundation stage, generally what I find by about halfway through the foundation course, and because you see some of the students as well, is people coming in saying, I've tried that with somebody around me, or I've started talking to my father in a different way, or my child in a different way, or my partner in a different way, and it's changing how my interactions are, how our relationships are around me. So it's not, I think that's one of the great benefits of the foundation course, that people are not only having to develop themselves clinically or something, it's actually just because it's a theory that's based in our social relationships, then people are changing themselves in the world just by as a secondary factor in doing a course, just by having the theory there.
And having gone through that, I can really attest to how there is something transformational about the experience. I think there's this examination of yourself and how you relate to yourself in the world, and your relationships, and how you are in that. And I think everyone that went through the course, and myself included, found that really did change a lot of things in a fundamental way. Obviously, some of that's our personal therapy, but the experience of pairing that with the understanding of everything that we got. And there's a lot of group process in the course as well. So it isn't just I went home and spoke to my partner and I'm going to mention that in the tea break. We have dedicated time to talk about how we're relating with each other. And that's a really big component of the course. And I think it means that it's experiential. It isn't just theoretical, this is like how ideally we could perform. There's something that's very in the room and held. And my experience with Bryony is that she is very, very good at managing that and creating a lot of safety, and that she's very competent in being able to facilitate that so that people really learn. And also the advanced course is a rolling course, so you get people from different years all in together, and that's such a key part of the learning as well, because you're getting people who've feel a bit braver, feel a bit more tutored, showing you, so you don't have to kind of make it all up from scratch. So my experience on the course was that it was incredibly personal. It was very transformational in terms of where I began and where I finished. And it was really meaningful. So I've made a lot of very, very solid connections with practitioners who are now my colleagues and my friends. It is quite a small course compared to some of the other ones out there.
Small in terms of numbers of students.
Yeah,
yes.
And I think that again makes it very, very personal, because there's always time for you. You know, you're not in a massive group where you're not really seen. There is a closeness that I think that's quite special about the TA course, certainly my experience. And I think that was really lovely and meaningful. And if you go through that 1 year journey, there's a lot of closeness, there's a lot of group work that really brings people together and makes them feel that they're not on their own and they can understand these things.
I hope so. Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, just to say something about how that course actually plays out. The foundation course is 9 weekends. It starts in November and runs through to July, and we meet 1 weekend a month. And the weekends are 9:30 to 5:30 on Saturday, 9:30 to 5 on a Sunday. So they're fairly intensive weekends. You can fit the whole thing in over a weekend. We get a lot done over that time. But of course, over that time, there's time to talk to each other. That we do a lot of experiential learning. So we do a lot of doing exercises, reflecting on those, thinking about those in terms of theory, and then thinking about how we might take that back into our lives, into our practice, those sorts of things.
So we've got a couple of questions. I'll start with Nadia. What about progression onto the advanced course? Is it automatic? I think we mentioned that a little bit in terms of you do the foundation course. I mean, you maybe want to talk about.
Well, what we're assessing during that foundation course is how people are doing generally, but also are they ready to start in clinical practice the next year? Because we want people on the advanced course to be able to start in placement, start seeing clients in the second year of the course, the first year of the advanced course. So what we're doing during that course is assessing how people are doing in terms of their grasp of theory, in terms of how they're working with themselves, and how they're doing in learning counselling skills, because we have a counselling skills element of the course as well, how they're developing their counselling skills. And we have some criteria that are about readiness to start on the next part of the course. We talk about this throughout the course, so it's not that you don't have an automatic transfer through to the advanced course, but there are plenty of points in the course at which people are given pointers as to what they need to do in order to progress. It's not like we get to the end of the year and we go yes or no. There's a discussion that goes on all the way through the course.
And I think that kind of makes it sound like, I don't know, there's someone kind of assessing you in a really formal and stressful way throughout the year. It's not really how it happens. No. I think it's very kind of within the work, and it's just part of the dialogue that's ongoing about people wanting to learn and being very keen to improve their kind of counselling skills, and then the feedback that we give about that. So it's all very well integrated, and I don't think too frightening or scary, but very, very nicely done in dialogue, and I mean reasonably informally in terms of just continually having chats about how people are getting on, how they're doing, where they're going next. And from my perspective, I guess it's Brian tends to look at the safety to make sure that the people she's recommending going to placement are competent to do that, and that's what it really is about. Is that nothing's because they're still trainees and you sign them off, but it's just safe and okay.
Yeah, it needs to be safe enough for both parties. Yeah. For the clients and for the practitioners.
So Matt's got a question, just talking about therapy.
Oh yes, about therapies. Yeah. So Matt's asking about is the psychotherapy included in the course fees? No, it is additional. I guess we would never even think about bundling therapy into the course, because that's your own autonomous choice about who you want to see. So people need to be able to make a choice about who they're going to see and who suits them.
Yeah.
It's and it is a significant cost as well, of course. So there are additional costs that go on outside of the course. Therapy being a big one in the first year. We have requirements about types of therapies that people need to see, and then once you move on into placement, then you'll have supervision costs as well. But it's part of our personal and professional development we take very seriously, of course.
I think there's something about the TA course where the requirements are a little bit stricter, the therapy requirements that need supervision, and that does add a financial element to it, which can mean it's a bit more costly potentially than other options. I think it is an investment. You know, in my experience, I did it. There's some more funding options available now that make life a little bit easier. If you're interested in this, to get in contact, there are some options to make it more manageable. But the costs are really an investment over time. I think, you know, the same way the course is a little bit longer, but you come out quite really robust. It does cost a little bit more because of those requirements, and I think they're absolutely essential, and they make you into a really robust practitioner because you've got that support. I definitely learned an enormous amount, equal to what I learned on the course by doing my own therapy, and, you know, that really fed in together, doing them in tandem, and I took responsibility for the cost of that, and it's paying off now. So, you know, it really does work out, but there was some practical issues about to pay for that. And as I say, you can start in private practice sooner as well, which is quite nice, and that does help.
Yeah, it's not so free. Aisha, it's Aisha's question. Would TA be a good choice for someone interested in practicing family or couple therapy? That's a really interesting question. TA started in groups originally. Yes, really, all of the early practice of TA was largely in groups as well as individually. So we do still have requirements in our TA qualification system that you do some group, i.e. non-individual, that's more than one person therapy. So quite a lot of people do couples work. We do have weekends on couples work within the course. Families is an interesting one simply because there are different guidelines and different requirements for people working with young people. So anybody now working with young people to meet the UKCP, the UCARTA requirements needs to do partly some additional training to meet the requirements for working with young people. So that's a little bit more of a complicated question. But I think being prepared to work with groups of people as well as with individuals, then TA is very good at that, and we have a good history and a good body of theory about that because it's built into our theory.
And it's how it's practiced as well, because there's a lot of group process, so it's taught within a group, and there's a lot about group dynamics in that as well. So I think that is a really key part of the course and the training.
Okay, Max has asked what happens if you're unable to make a day or a weekend. Okay, we really like people to be able to come to all the course if they can. If people are unable to make a weekend or a day, what they end up doing is making up the theory that they've missed. So having a meeting probably with one of their peers in the group to talk about the theory they've missed. You can't actually make up the time by doing that, so because we have an hours requirement that's laid out by the UKCP. So people also need to do, maybe they would then need to do some additional days training, actually, so they have the right number of training hours. So these things get a little bit complicated because we have requirements for different professional bodies, but we have an absolute requirement that people attend 80% of the course. So if you don't attend if you don't attend 80% of the course in any year, you do have to repeat that year, because you don't want a brain surgeon who missed out on part of their substantial part of their training, do you, really? That's kind of the way I think of it.
So Jane's asking, do you have contact with your tutor between training?
What's your experience, Rosie?
My general experience was that there's a tutorial once a year that you have that is outside of the training weekends normally. It's a chance to catch up with Bryony and talk about how you're getting on, and it's normally on the foundation year a useful time for if you're thinking about carrying on or not, and talking about where you're at and if anything needed to change for you to carry on. I think Bryony is contactable if there's any problems.
Yes,
absolutely. You know, for example, if you were unable to make it because life came up or something, she's absolutely in contact. But the bulk of the contact and everything really happens within the boundary of the training weekend for the most part.
Yeah, I field inquiries. Yeah. So if people have questions about essays and things, then they'll always contact me, or if they've got things going on they need to talk to me about. People also have support from their therapist and from their supervisor and from their peers by the time they get on a bit later in the course. So there's specific tutor contact, but there's sort of general TA contact that happens between weekends more frequently.
And just my experience on the course was that there wasn't ever any worries. You know, you work very closely with Bryony during the weekends. You work very closely with people in the group, and so there is a real feeling of being supported. There's not a feeling of, you know, I'm really stuck with this problem and I've got no one to speak to, because there is, I think, quite a strong network within all of the training to make sure that you've got places to go if you're worried about something. And when I'm helping out in the foundation years, I always encourage people, if they're talking to me about something, I'm like, have you brought it up with Bryony? You know, I'm pretty sure she'd be happy to talk to you about that, and you are. So it is quite a friendly, you're able to check things out. We really encourage that.
One of the key practices of TA is open communication. So, Matt, you're asking about the details for funding, and I'm going to offer to take that offline, because I think the easiest thing is for you to contact our admin office, who will have details about the funding opportunities that are available. But I don't have that to hand. We have people specifically in the office who will be able to help us with that, to help you with that, if that's okay. So sorry not to be able to answer that question directly. Right, what else are we missing here? What else do we need to talk about? How do you apply? It probably makes sense to say something about that.
We have got another question just in.
Oh, okay.
What are the kinds of assignments? Are there role plays?
It's a question that's so frequently asked about these courses, isn't it? Do you have to do role play? Do you want to get observed? So the kinds of assignments in the first year, there's two written assignments. One on, if you want to get into the technicalities of it, we do 3 weekends. So the first 3 weekends of the foundation course are on ego states. So we talk about the key pillars of theory in that first year. So the first 3 weekends are on the adult, the child, and the parent ego state. And at the end of that time, people write a 2,000-word essay on ego states. About how they're thinking about that theory within themselves. So they need to be able to show that they're thinking about the theory and applying it to some situations. The next one is on scripts. So we do then 3 weekends on scripts. And so the fundamentals of script theory, and then how the scripts are perpetuated through our interactions with people. And then you write an essay on scripts. And then you do the presentation at the end of the year. There aren't role plays, so I'd be very keen to sort of differentiate between role plays and skills practice. We do what we call triads, so it's a situation in which you have somebody being the quotes client, the talker, somebody being the listener, and somebody being the observer. And it's not a role play just because we really encourage people to bring real situations to that. And what we're doing at that point is for the practitioner, for the therapist, quotes, to be practicing their listening skills in response to the other person.
So the kind of clients in those situations, you're using your stuff, but you're doing it in a contained way, and that's why the therapy aspect is really important as well. So if anything came up in that, you can then go to your therapist and be an actual client and help get that sorted out.
Yeah.
The assignments as well get a lot more, I think, in the foundation year, because it does cover theory and you're not necessarily in practice. It does feel a bit more academic or less. I mean, it's still very related, but the assignments in the later years, one of them is a transcript, a short piece that you do with a client. And then you talk about in terms of TA, and the other one is a supervised practice report. So I do think that they get a bit more applicable in the world or something, and once you start on the advanced course.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really important, because the advanced course is simply about psychotherapy, whereas the foundation course is about any field, any of those core fields of psychotherapy, counselling, education, or organisation. So people bring in their organisational work and write their assignments in the first year about organisations or about work in schools or something, whereas beyond that point, then the focus is really on working with clients. So that's where the assignments change quite substantially.
And I guess that's the nice thing about the foundation year, is that it is broader. It does give you good coverage, I think, of TA theory and then how to apply it in groups, in organisations, you know, where you're working. And I think that can be really meaningful for people who aren't necessarily thinking, I want to be a psychotherapist in a room with a client. You know, that's where I want to end up, is that it can be a lot more applicable to other kinds of work.
That, again, for me, it's the beauty of TA theory, the fact that it is applicable in this wide range of areas. People who've learned a tiny bit and people who've learned a huge amount. That's really that's its great strength, I think. Let's finish up what we were saying about how do I actually get into this course? You get into this course by applying. We have an application form on our website, so that you can find that on the relevant page on our foundation course part of the website. So people send in an application form and a covering letter which says why you want to do the course. We like to have a photo of you just so we can we put it in your file so we can remember you more easily. It's much more straightforward that way. We'd like a CV and copies of your relevant qualifications. So if you've got a degree, if you've done other counselling courses, if you've done a TA 101, we'd like to know those. Get copies of those certificates. We're looking for 2 references. So we'd like a personal and a professional reference. Generally, what happens then is that people give their referees our format for the reference form, and the referees send them back. People pay an application fee, so there's a small application fee, which is £25, and that all goes through our admin office. If you wanted to apply for this year's course starts in November. If you want to apply for this year's course, we do have a deadline of the 27th of October. And that's our absolute deadline, because we need to have time to interview people, and the interview times would be that weekend. So it would be the 28th, 29th, 28th, and potentially Monday the 30th. That must be then. The interview is a chance for us to ask you questions, and for you to reflect on why you want to come into the course, and for you to ask us questions as well. So ideally what we do at interview is we get people together to have a discussion about the course, and then we have an individual interview of usually half an hour, maybe a little bit more each. So that's an individual interview between you and just one other person, that's me. Anything else to be said about the interview process? I mean, I hope that the interview process, that what we're mirroring is a dialogic process. So we get in, we talk about, there's not a case of me firing questions or you firing questions. We talk about your motivation, what you want to do, how you're thinking about this, and take it from there. About to make a decision. We want to make a decision and want you to be able to make a decision about what's the right thing for you to do.
And I think quite often people come to open days and they feel like they need to kind of know for certain or something. I really encourage people just to get in contact and have a chat. You know, Brian is always open to have a chat, the IML, because everyone's got different experiences, everyone's got an idea maybe about what they want, and what we try and do with all the open day events is to just really have a chat with people about where they're at and what they want, and see if it's a good fit. Because you want people in the right course, and you want people doing something that's going to be meaningful. And I think you know, we do our best to try to get that, so that everyone in the course is working towards what they want out of, you know, their long-term career or their work at the moment. And so yeah, it's not just like, you know, come on down and buy into it. It's, you know, is this going to fit you? Is this the right times? Does this fit in? Is the course going to be manageable? All of that stuff. And if you've got any queries about is this the right fit, just, you know, having a chat with us, because, you know, Bryony knows what it entails, and you know what you want and how those things fit together can be really meaningful.
I think that's really, really important, yes, to ask the questions, keep asking the questions, and get the right fit for yourself.
And I think that people who maybe unsure, but they're thinking, oh, this would be nice maybe in the future, you know, maybe looking at the 101 and just having a bit of a taster, because it, you know, it's either run by Brian or another TA practitioner. You get a really good flavour of TA, you get a feel for whether it's going to suit you, whether you like it, whether you're interested. So I certainly did that a while before I actually signed up for the course, and it was just really nice to be certain and be like, oh yeah, you know, this is giving me what I want. So again, that's another good opportunity to learn more about it, which I think would be really good.
I would agree. I think the 101 is a really good taster for our course. You get to hear about TA, you get to interact with TA, you get to interact with the tutors who teach on the course generally as well. So that's great. And we run a couple of those we run 3 of those next year, and we run a couple of those in Paul as well. So we have got we've got a reasonable availability for 101s each year. So I think we're beginning to wrap up here now. Things you can do at this point. Go to the TA pages of our website at iml.co.uk for more information about the courses, for the application forms. There's also links on our website to other sources of information. So there's links to the UCANTA website, to the UKCP website as well. Do get in touch with us directly. So get in touch with us at the Iron Mill, which is 01392 219 200, or inquiries at ironmill.co.uk. And all of that information, of course, is on our website as well, if you're not scribbling that down right away. So do get in touch with us, with our admin team, who can then put you in touch with me as well, because I'm not in the office all the time. You can watch this video again. It will be available on our website, is that? Yeah, okay. On our Facebook page. I'm not a techie. So do tell your friends about it, as well as feel free to view it again, and do, as Rosie said, think about a 101 if you're at all interested.
And if you've got any more comments or questions that you haven't asked at the moment, please, we will be keeping an eye on the comment section, so you can pop it in there and we'll try and get back to you. Or if you want to just contact us directly, we'll chat with you. And it's been really lovely and nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much for all of your questions.
Thanks very much for anyone who posted questions.
Bye.